Thokozani, sanibonani chamaku. Siyabonga Mkhize here from Umsamo Institute. I hope you guys had a beautiful long weekend and are well rested. And you're going to have an even better one this weekend. My apologies for last week Friday I didn't post my video. That's why this Friday I'm going to give you two videos explaining two very important concepts that I feel are being used inappropriately for fear-mongering and scare tactics. The first one I'm going to speak about today is the exchange of spiritual energy during sexual intercourse. And the reason I want to have this communication, or rather this talk today on this particular concept, is because a lot of people are either A, placing all the blame on women and placing the emphasis that it is women that are carriers of bad energy, not men, but B, that we should be afraid of sex, that we should be afraid of having sexual intercourse with the wrong person, and that we could acquire all this bad energy, end up in a car accident and die and lose our money and our jobs and so on and so forth. Lots of fear mongering. So before we talk about the exchange of spiritual energy, let us understand spiritual energy and its purpose. Spiritual energy is there to drive the manifestation of any kind of ancestral gifts that are to be realized in this realm, right? So the ancestral gifts can come from the ancestors from both your mother's side as well as your father's side. It is important to remember that the good, clean energy, right, is going to manifest the good and clean ancestors and their gifts as well, right? Not everyone is going to look for light and good energy. Some people thrive on dark energy and want dark energy because it is the dark ancestors, either the ones that bebe tagata or the ones that had evil hearts and evil intentions and everything that they did, who are going to feed off of negative energy. Okay? And both of those ancestors, both good and bad, right, depending on what energy you put into your body and the composition of your spiritual energy makeup, are going to be responsible for the gifts that they manifest in this realm. So now, let's take it back to sexual intercourse. Sexual intercourse is the most intimate form of human interaction, right? And because it's such an intimate form of human interaction, the exchange of spiritual energy is at its greatest. Or rather, let me say, you are the most vulnerable to losing or gaining when you are engaged in sexual intercourse. This includes oral. The exchange of spiritual energy does take place from day to day when you share an apartment with someone, when you hug someone, when you kiss someone, when that person enters your personal space, when you're sharing a work desk with someone. So there's always a degree of exchange of spiritual energy that takes place from day to day. But what makes sexual intercourse so special is because it is the most intimate and there are no buffers or barriers between yourself and this particular individual. So why am I most concerned? Or rather, why should you understand the exchange of spiritual energy during sexual intercourse the most? That is because, right, when you are engaged in that act of sexual intercourse, okay, and because there is no protection, right? Guys, condoms don't protect you from losing spiritual energy, okay? And because there's no limited degree of protection, right? That means there is no control over what you may lose or gain. The floodgates are completely open, right? So what you need to understand is that between yourself and this individual, depending on the composition of spiritual energy between the two of you, what will happen is because the floodgates are open and there's no buffer or barrier or semi-permeable membrane or whatever the case may be, is that equilibrium is what needs to take place between the two of you, okay? So if I have a 50-50 composition here and a 50-50 composition here, then at the end of that, it'll be 50-50. If you have 80-20 there and you have 60-40 here, the equilibrium, or rather what's the middle, is what's going to be obtained between these two people, okay? So it always wants to strive to meet equilibrium, okay? So now what happens if you as an individual are with someone who, or you as an individual have a lot of light and that person has a lot of dark? What that means is that you risk losing as much, quite a bit of light energy in exchange for their dark energy. Because remember, equilibrium needs to take place. So the intention of this video is for not to scare you into not having sex, but rather for you to understand how spiritual energy can be exchanged between two individuals. Yikho nje sometimes kuneyinkabi hitmen that when after killing somebody, as opposed to cleansing at the river with a goat, right, to remove leso sinyama, they are told, or rather they go and find someone to sleep with so that their predominantly dark energy is removed and exchanged for that light energy. So how do you protect yourself? Well, to protect yourself, abstinence obviously is always going to be best. But if you do have multiple partners and you're enjoying your exploration, then I would say to you, the same level of caution you treat your physical health with the HIV tests and the regular STI tests and the checkups at the doctor is what you should do for yourself, for your spiritual health. Go to a healer, or you can do it yourself. Tatimbozi, igazi nyongo nomswane, river water, and you cleanse yourself at the river. Once or twice a year. So the same attitude that you apply with your physical health when it comes to your sexual health, you should do the exact same thing with your spiritual health. But I think it is important to understand that the only thing I can do is give you a model, or rather an understanding of what you are most likely going to lose or gain depending on who you are as an individual, right, when engaged in sexual intercourse. But it's important to remember that because the floodgates are open, that it is purely going, my explanation, which is going to come up in my webinars, is purely going to be the most probable or the most likely scenario. There is always going to be a risk of losing more or gaining more as well. And in closing, I want us to also understand that there are people, individuals, who thrive on having multiple partners, going around collecting either dark or light energy. And I explained why some people really want a lot of dark energy and why some people may want a lot of light energy. Not everyone in this world thrives or wants light energy, especially if the ancestor that is fueling their success was a dark-hearted and an evil person. Then they want to give them the energy that they need for their gifts to be realized and manifested in this world. So next month, I'm going to give you a webinar which is going to give you a detailed explanation and understanding around spiritual energy and the exchange of spiritual energy. And for that, and to spend time with myself during an advisory session, which is 30 minutes, 500 Rand, please email bookings@umsamo.org.za. That's bookings with an S at umsamo.org.za.